Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today, guys, this is huge for me. I'm joined by somebody that's meant a lot to me for a very long time. I am joined by the amazing Deborah Voorhees. Deborah, how you doing today?
I'm terrific. I so thank you for having me on. It's so kind of you.
This is something that when we finally connected and we decided we were able to do this, I was so over the top. And I'm going to be honest with everybody. I'm an open book. We initially did this as my first horror movie. But once Deborah and I started talking and we really got into the meat of 13 Fanboy, I said I wanted this episode to be strictly about that. But I need to let you know who Deborah is if you don't know yet, if you've been living under a rock like Patrick Starr. She did play Tina in Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. She also acted in Innocent Prey and Avenging Angel. And like I said, more recently, she is the co-writer, co-producer, director, and starring in the very much anticipated 13 Fanboy. Before we talk about 13 Fanboy real quick, guys, Deborah was kind enough to let me show you guys the trailer right here on the channel. So why don't you guys check this out real quick?
When I was a kid, my dad used to lock me in the basement when I was bad. The only thing I had to keep me company was a stack of VHS tapes. Friday the 13th and Halloween, the entire sagas. You all became my family, so I wrote and I wrote, but you never wrote back.
Friday the 13th actress Tiffany Helm was found stabbed to death late last night. Some reports are even saying her head was completely severed.
Is it true that you were in Friday the 13th?
There was a piece of my hair cut out in the middle of the night. That means this fanboy, he's not just watching me, he's coming into my home.
A woman is dead, and she died on my hands.
Keep your doors locked and your gun loaded.
Oh, I'm so sorry you had to die.
How awesome was that, you guys? How amazing is this going to be? This is the Avengers Endgame horror crossover that we've all been waiting for. You have Dee Wallace, Corey Feldman, Kane Hodder, Laura Park Lincoln, C.J. Graham, Vin DeSanti, just to name a few, as well as the beautiful Deborah. So 13 Fanboy, this is something that I've been hearing about for a long time, something I'm extremely excited about. Before we clear the air on some rumors that are going around, what can you tell us a little bit about 13 Fanboy and your inspiration for writing the film?
Well, 13 Fanboy is it's really about a fanboy who has a deadly obsession for people from Friday the 13th and Halloween. Dee Wallace is Cynthia Stroder in Halloween. Well, he came from an abusive household. His father would lock him in the basement, and all he had down there was these VHS tapes, the whole series of Friday the 13th, Halloween. And so the people became his family, and he'd write them and he'd write them. They didn't write back. And he didn't just feel like, oh, dang it, they didn't write me back. He betrayed.
Right.
These were his family. How could you do that to me?
Sure.
And so go from there. This film is a thriller.
Mm-hmm.
Done it. A horror film. It's got slasher elements in there as well. I mean, it is, it's much more realistic. It's not a guy coming up out of the grave and going and killing. This is something that can actually happen.
And what you just said, I want to make a segue real quick, Deborah. you said this can actually happen. And unfortunately for one of the actresses that was going to be in this film, Adrienne King, who you guys better know as Alice from Friday the 13th 1 and 2, this did happen. She had a stalker that was stalking her, so she did drop out of the film. So you may have read on some news sites that she is part of this film. She is not. And I hope that we can all respect that, the privacy of that. If you've had something like this happen to you, this is probably not something you'd want to act in. If you had a rape victim, I'm sure they wouldn't want to participate in a film where that was happening to them. This is the kind of thing where there's a big difference between fantasy and reality. And when we're talking about Adrienne, this is more reality than it is fantasy. So that's something Deborah and I both wanted to clear up out of respect for Adrienne. We know that her name's out there a lot, but she is not part of the film for a very good reason, not because of anything with the film, but because of the basis behind the film. That's something scary that every woman at some point in their life has had to go through. And I'm so sorry that you do. Men that go through it too, I'm so sorry that you've ever had to feel uncomfortable because of the way another human being has treated you. That's not fair. And it's a bummer we're not going to get to see Adrienne in the film, but it's for the better on her end, which is the better on all our ends, because she's more at peace with that. She's more comfortable with that. We wouldn't want to put her in any type of uncomfortable situation. And one other thing I want to clear up, me personally, I've heard this being called a fan film. Farthest thing from the truth. This is not a fan film. Fan films are more made for distribution on YouTube. They're not monetized to show your love for the genre. I am not against fan films. I absolutely adore fan films. I think they're some of the better films. They're all so lovely. This also is not a Friday the 13th film. This is 13 Fanboy. That's what this is. This takes place in the canon of Friday the 13th and Halloween, because obviously this person it's real. This isn't in the world of Jason Voorhees. This is about the person that is so obsessed with them, they try to go out and take revenge for their family betraying them. So I don't want it going around that this is just a fan film, not a slam against fan films, or that this is a Friday the 13th movie. It's not. It's 13 Fanboy. This is something that is transcending above those things. And now, please, again, I'm not putting those down, but this is something that if it was me, I wouldn't want people saying this was my fan film or this was my Friday the 13th film, because that's just factually inaccurate. So one thing I want to talk to you about real quick, Deborah, now that I got those cleared out, because I felt like it was important that we cleared the air on a couple things. For you, what is the difference between acting and directing? Like, is there that huge difference of, especially when you've co-written something where this is more mine, you take it a little more personally when you're out there doing it?
Absolutely. Let's see. I mean, there are huge differences. Directing, of course, it has a creative element, but a lot of directing is more, you have to be in your brain. It's more cerebral. You're having to really work through. You've got a lot of problems, a lot of things you're juggling, a lot of people you're talking to, and you're making decisions very quickly. You know, yes, this, no, this, yes, we're doing this, no, move over here, let's try this. So it's a constant flow of information. Acting, on the other hand, is more about your emotional state and taking yourself and putting yourself in an emotional state. When I am acting on set, I remove the world around me. All the grips and the DP and the people on set, other people, actors that are waiting to come in, I close everything off and live in a world where they don't exist.
Okay.
In directing, it's the complete opposite. I have to know what everybody is, everybody's doing. I got my nose in everything.
Right.
So they're very, very different. They both are very difficult in different ways. And since I co-produced this as well as, acting it and directing in it, the amount of work that I had to put into it to get this film out, I think that anybody who's never made a film before and wants to would be stunned at the amount of work that it takes. It's an unbelievable amount. And while I had an amazing team and everything, particularly during production time and a little bit with pre-production and post, after I was outside of those realms, I've been pretty much on my own for most of it, not completely, but for most of it. And it's intense, guys. It's really intense. And I've loved every minute of the journey. I'm so glad I've taken it. I'm planning on taking more because
I can't wait. And if you ever need help on any of those journeys with any type of Indiegogo work or promotion, I will take care of you. I would be honored to do whatever I can to help you. You have my word. I've done it for a lot of my friends, especially right now. Something I've talked about a lot. This is something else I was going to bring up with you. So you keep giving me the perfect segues. We got to work together more often. You were talking about how difficult it is right now, and especially during a time with COVID where everything is kind of up in the air. From me and all my friends, and I can tell you this from the bottom of my heart, from everything I am, we appreciate you because we know that things are dangerous right now. My wife is a respiratory therapist, so COVID is something in this house we take extremely seriously. And during this pandemic, if it wasn't for indie filmmakers and you guys doing your jobs, that you're not getting the major studio help, you're not getting that major studio budget.
Right.
You guys are still out there kicking ass, and because of you guys and these streaming services, you've kept us sane during this pandemic. So, that's why it's always pissed me off when people are like, oh, actors, directors, producers, writers, they need to stay in their lane and not talk about politics. You're people. And without you, you have a voice and you have that platform to use your voice. And not only that, but right now you've had the platform to keep us entertained and not make us go crazy while we're out here during COVID. So I can tell you, everybody I've ever talked to, and horror especially, is more so than anybody. Horror is such, and you can tell, like I said, the people that you got to come do this film with you, whether it be Lar, Kane, D, CJ, Vin, all these people are so influential, and they've all been so influential on a lot of people. And there's been people that have gone to cons just to meet these people. You don't get that with romantic comedies. You don't get rom-com con, but you guys do your cons and we come and see you because that's what you mean to us. And you're still out there creating and making beautiful pieces of art to keep us sane. So on behalf of every horror fan out there, we love you and we appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm telling you, horror fans, you guys are the best. We love that. We really do.
And we appreciate that. Something that I didn't mention yet, Deborah, that I would like to throw out there real quick. Right now, when you guys are watching this, it's October 15th. Happy Halloween Kills Day to you. But you know what's in 7 days? The limited release of 13 Fanboy. It's going to be in select cinemas around the United States, as well as most major video on demand pay-per-view platforms. And we're thinking, Deborah and the team are thinking that December it will have its retail market DVD and Blu-ray release. So that's
a possibility. The opening date is October 22nd. Will happen on that date. Our select theaters around the United States. What we have right now, more may be added. We have several theaters in Phoenix. We have Tucson. We have in LA area, Orange County. We have Minneapolis, Detroit, New Orleans. I know I'm missing a bunch. Chicago, San Francisco. Indian Land in South Carolina, which is around a larger metropolis, is my understanding. And then let's see, which one was it? Oh, I'm running blank. There's some more. We have about 19 different locations right now.
Okay.
Also, Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky, at the Lex Live. Oklahoma City, we're there. So there's quite a few places. And then also we will have on about every major VOD in-demand pay-per-view platform out there. And then we don't have a date for the release on the DVDs, but it's a guesstimate of December, but it might not make it that then. So we're ways off from knowing that answer. And then of course, then we have our foreign sales that will begin, and that's a little later. In mid-November, I'll be in London for 2 weeks for promotions there.
That's awesome. I hope you have a safe and amazing trip. And
thank you.
I got to say this, just because it's me. Detroit represent. I'm so glad Detroit is getting one. That is so awesome. So that means I'll be seeing it in theater on opening night. So I'm so excited.
Oh, cool.
Is there a website or any social media sites that would tell us all the theaters that it's being released in?
Come to Deborah Voorhees Share Horror, and I'm going to be posting that very shortly. If you follow me on my personal Facebook page, I'll be putting it there. I'm pretty much filled up. I know I have a few slots left, but I have more than 1,000 people in line waiting. So the best thing to do, just follow me. So my stuff will pop up, and you can also go to 13 Fanboy, and I'll put it there too.
And you guys don't have to go far because all those links are down here in the description. So all you got to do is do some clicking down here. And in 7 days from now, you could be watching 13 Fanboy in cinema. And I promise you will not regret it. This is something that to me is almost silly that something like this has never actually been done, because this seems like such an obvious step to take, but I know how hard it could be to try to make something like this, because like I said,
right.
I know that, Adrian has gone through stuff like this, and other actors and actresses have gone through stuff like this. What was it that finally made you just go, you know what, we're going to make this film?
Well, that's a really good question, because initially I was talking with my producing partner. His name's Joel Paul Rysick, and we were talking about a completely different film. And he asked me about horror fans and horror conventions. Are they scary? And I was like, no, they're really kind of cool people. They're really a lot of fun. And I said, at the horror conventions, people are so nice and respectful. And, let's face it, with my role as Tina, as naked in it, that could be an uncomfortable situation. But I have, I would say 99% of the time, people are terribly, terribly respectful. And they try very hard not to do anything that might be, I would say even sometimes overly cautious, right. Fairly laid back. I mean, not to encourage anything. I'm fairly, right. I don't want to push it. Okay. I like the way it is right now. Being overly, but no, I think that the horror fans are fantastic. So, but what ended up, he said, well, has there ever been anything scary? And so I told him about a couple of situations that were a bit uncomfortable. And I've had just occasionally get that one that's just, just a little off. It's got a little loose. And so what I told him was I had a message come over on my Facebook and said, wouldn't it be cool if you died in real life like you did in Friday the 13th? And I was like, no, not cool.
No.
And so I immediately blocked the person, never heard back from them. And so I assume it was either a prank, or even if it was a fan, maybe they lacked understanding of proper boundaries, but never pursued on from there, to my knowledge. They haven't. And so then another time, this one is a little more scary because it wasn't on Facebook Messenger. This one was on my personal phone. And I'm sitting in my office. I'm writing on a script, which happened to be a scary one. There's these windows. I have fridge doors and the windows. I don't have drapes on them. So open to the outside, and I live in the mountains, so it's like nothing's out there but trees and elk and deer and mountain lions and all that kind of stuff. Really big mountain lions and bears. And I get this message, and it says, I'm watching you. And from where I was at that moment, it actually could have happened, because I have a little desk light on, similar to what I have on now, which means you can see from outside in.
Sure.
And then it goes through a series of text and basically pretending to be Jason, and he was there to kill me. And that freaked me out. So I immediately blocked. Once again, nothing else again. Same person, no idea. But the person didn't bother me again, to my knowledge.
And the thing is, I'm not the most well-educated man in the world, but I don't think even a large elk or bear could text that.
No.
But okay, that's a joke. But on a serious note, listen, if you're out there and you by some crazy chance stumble upon a celebrity or a hero's phone number, just let it go. Don't do anything like that. Don't text them. Don't call them. These are human beings, guys. They have boundaries. They have families. That's not funny. Like, there's nothing funny about treating another human being that way. I've got friends that get this stuff all the time, and it's like, who raised you to think this is okay? You know, like, human beings have boundaries, and I would be uncomfortable if someone texted my wife or my daughters things like that. You know, like, that's just something that, treat them like something my mother always told me. I got my first job at a pizza place when I was 13 and a half years old, and I thought I was the king of the bees. I thought I was the bee's knees. My mom told me, she said, I want you to make every single pizza like you're making it for me. And that has stuck with me my whole life. You treat every single person, even in retail now. I manage an Napa store, and when people come in, I treat them like they're my mother. You know, you treat them with respect, you treat them with kindness. You have, even if they're being shitty to me, I have no idea what happened to them for 30 seconds before they walked in that door. Like, I've had people tell me, yes, and I've had people tell me, I've gone to cons and this person treated me terribly, and I'm like, you have no idea what happened to that person. 45 seconds. That could have been someone, you know, coming up to you and telling you, I've been watching you, and then the next person up, yeah, you're going to be a little angry and you're going to be a little upset. You gotta remember, these are human beings.
You might be flushed and feeling a lot of emotion and frightened, or somebody may have just texted and said their mother died.
Right.
Or
you
was
never
in the hospital, and so you're not keyed up.
Right. And something I want to go back to on 13 Fanboy. This is a question that I have because this is a unique situation. So to be able to ask a question like this has been really cool for me to think about. You have acted in Friday the 13th in A New Beginning. Right. And now you're doing 13 Fanboy. Is it different when you're playing yourself and you're directing characters that are playing themselves rather than playing a character in a film? Like, is that a little bit of a different challenge?
Very different. I gave, as far as the directing end of it, I gave my actors a lot of room, which I would do, but in a different way, because if they came to me and said, this isn't working for me, and what do I need to do? Since they're playing themselves, I would, it's simple. How would you say? What would you say?
Sure.
Let's switch it up, because you are playing yourself. And each one, I tried to put things in that were related to that person. Now, not in all cases. Like, for instance, Corey Feldman, he doesn't actually play himself. He is a character in the film. Everybody else is playing themselves, but he's playing a creepy producer, and that's not who he is in real life. So
right.
That one's different. But like, say, for Dee Wallace, the role is written as somebody who is very kind and loving, and in the film, she has grandkids and she's a very loving person. And so those things come into it. And we also see some of her life going, and the other ones too, going to the horror conventions and stuff. And so Tracy Savage, in real life, she has been a long time journalist. She's covered the O.J. Simpson trial, and she has also is a professor and teaches journalism, broadcast journalism, in a college area. And so we used those aspects as part of her character, and we tried to do that with each person.
Sure. I totally, for a minute there, thought you were going to be like, Dee Wallace, we wrote her as really loving and kind, but really Dee's mean. Nobody likes Dee.
No.
I thought you were going to pull the rug out from under me there for a second. No, it's amazing that these people signed on to play themselves. This is something that we feel so strongly about. We feel strongly about your writing and your directing and your, co-directing, co-producing, that we would love to be a part of this with you.
Right.
And like I said, when I had Laura on, Laura was like my first childhood crush. So like getting her on was so rad to me. And she had nothing but the most exciting things to say about 13 Fanboy. And that's how I had initially heard about 13 Fanboy. So to go back now and be able to talk to you and learn some more things that are coming around with this film, because I was under the impression that it was a little different than it was. At the time, you guys weren't really doing much with it yet. You were filming, but not a lot was released. So she couldn't talk about a lot of it with me. She didn't want to spoil anything. And which, respect to her. Pissed me off at the time, but respect to her. It's just one of those things where I totally understood. Like you said, horror fans are respectful, we're kind, we understand. But now getting to the meat and the bones of it, like I got to see the skin a little bit. But now we're getting into the meat and the bones. And this is something that, and it's funny, I hate to sound like that guy, but I'm not going to lie. Being locked in a basement watching Friday the 13th and Halloween really does sound like a good time to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I know.
But it is sad that something that I like to attribute here, and I've talked about this on this podcast before because I'm in no means a super intelligent person, but in my own opinion, when you start watching horror at a young age, it's just like anything else. You need education. If you get locked in a basement and just thrown these movies, you're not getting the education that it takes to learn the difference between fantasy and reality.
Right.
And when
you're exactly right.
I've always said that when you have young horror fans that get the education that they need to go along with these films, you have some of the most grounded people that are grounded in reality because they've been educated to know the difference between fantasy and reality. They know that these are movies. In real life, this stuff is not okay.
Right.
And I was so lucky with my upbringing. I was in a video store and I had parents and grandparents that really educated me on the difference between fantasy and reality and teaching me these are actors that are playing parts. They're not really getting hurt. Hurting people like that is not okay. And I've always said, as long as you're going to be educational with your children, start them on horror at a young age. Start them with, Casper, the Addams Family, Beetlejuice, and then gradually bring them up into the scary stuff. So, one thing I do got to ask, just because I'll end up kicking myself. We don't have to talk about it. But what was the first horror movie that you watched?
The first early on, I can't tell you for 100% certainty which one it was. But one of the first things I remember seeing, and by today's standards, we might not call it a horror, but I was, 5, 6 years old. Dark Shadows was a big deal when I was a kid. The TV series.
Vampire series, right?
Yes, exactly. And so I really liked that one. And of course, I remember my dad came over and he sat next to me and he was like, "Is this scary for you?" And I grab a hold of his leg like this and hold it real tight. "No, Daddy." Of course,
horror's always been subjective. There are certain things that people don't classify as horror that I'm a huge believer that Ghostbusters and Jurassic Park are both horror movies. I think those are both absolutely horror movies.
Absolutely. One's a ghost story and one is a creature feature. Absolutely. And
Terminator, total slasher film. He goes through the phone book, killing every Sarah Connor. Like he's a total slasher.
Right. Absolutely. And then after that, Universal horror movies, those were really popular when I was a kid, the monster creature features, kind of thing. And Frankenstein, particularly one of my faves. And then at 12, though, that was the one, The Exorcist, that really scared the living daylights out of me. I saw it all by myself. And for 2 weeks, I didn't sleep for shit for that movie. And that's when I swore that I only watch scary movies with somebody else in the room with me.
I could never, even to this day, I couldn't watch The Exorcist alone. It's one of those things where what I love about The Exorcist, for me, watching The Exorcist as a young boy didn't affect me as much because I didn't understand a lot of what was going on with a young lady. Now watching it as the father of little girls, I feel completely different than I did watching it as a young boy. Because now, rather than looking at it from, the girl's possessed by the devil, burn the house down, get the hell out of there. I look at it as, what if that was my little girl?
Right.
And I can't do anything to stop this.
Right.
So that's another thing about horror. The older you get, the same movies can have completely different meanings to you.
Right.
And
absolutely.
We keep segueing here. Horror movies is something that is important to you and I both a lot. I know 13, all your eggs are probably in the 13 fanboy basket now. But again, if I don't ask these questions, I don't know if I'll get to talk to you again anytime soon. I'll kick myself in the ass if I don't. Do you have any other projects coming up after 13 fanboy that you can talk about?
Yes. I can't say too much about it, but I am in the middle of working on a ghost story. Ghost stories are some of my favorite because look at it this way. Prove to me that there's not a ghost right now behind you.
Right.
Proof.
And sleep is going to be fun for me tonight. Thanks, Deborah.
Hey, think about it. I mean, if you start watching a ghost movie and you're feeling kind of lonely and everything, you won't feel lonely for long. Because you'll start to feel like there's somebody there.
Yeah.
I had a really funny thing happen the other day. I'm watching this scary, scary ghost movie. And my dog looks into the corner of the house up at the eye level of like a human and starts growling. And she wouldn't stop. She just kept going, like going, what the hell? I'm like, stop it! Stop it!
Do you want me to come help you pack your bags, or did you get them all packed yourself?
I mean, once the movie was done and everything, I laughed because, you know, who knows what it was. But I'll tell you what, when you're in the middle of a scary, and it was right at a really, really scary moment, and your dog starts growling at nothing.
That is intense. I love it.
I definitely, it was pretty hysterical. I had to laugh at myself because I jumped out of my skin. I was like, ah! What?
So this is amazing, Deborah, being able to sit here and talk with you. Something else I wanted to bring up. I had a couple questions that I for sure wanted to ask you. This is another one. You've done a lot of directing. You've done a lot of writing. You've done a lot of acting. Given the choice, what is your preferred form of art? Do you prefer to be directing?
Absolutely, 100% without any question. I love writing. There's a lot of really wonderful things about it. I love acting. There's great things about that. I also edit, and I did about 50% of the editing for this film. And I have a really great guy for doing the rest. And, but at the end of the day, I like to run the ship.
There you go.
I'm the captain.
Is it easier? Like, I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to dig a little deeper. Is it easier to direct something that you've written because you have the idea of what's going on as you were writing it anyway? Or do you prefer to direct something that was written by someone else that you can take and create and make into your own?
That's a good question. I've done both. I think ultimately I prefer to direct what I do. Okay. Or at least, you know, something that like right now I'm working with somebody on the ghost story I was telling you about. And by the time we're finished with the outline, and then I'll kick it to him to do. It was kind of the opposite with me. I was the one that was kicked to for 13 Fanboy. But on this one, I'll probably kick it to him and then I'll do rewrites on it. I like that because then I can, it's like you're molding everything from the very first moment into what you want. And, you know, sometimes people think that just because you take it all the way across like that, writing, directing, editing and stuff, that means that everything is going to be exactly the way you originally saw it. But that's not true. And actually you'd be selling your project short if you only did that.
Sure.
What you want to do is to be able to look at other people's ideas and suggestions and pull them in when it works better. Yeah. And one of the things I do when I'm directing actors, well, the first thing I do is nothing. The actors sometimes want to talk to me about, you know, how I see the role, what am I thinking, and that sort of thing. And I'm like, I'll tell them, look, unless this is something you really feel like you need, I would rather us not go there.
Sure.
What to do is I want you to take your interpretation, bring it to me, and let's look at it. Now, mind you, I know when I walk on that set, I know every head tilt, every movement of the hand, every look of the eye, every eyebrow raise, the look on the face, the movements, the everything that I see in my head is I've already seen this movie many, many times. Knowing exactly what I'm looking for. Now, I put that on my actor though, and I'm going to turn my actor into this stilted creature who's like, I can't work this way. They're going to get frustrated and no, I can't lift my hand exactly on this one thing. You know, yes, only on a couple things where maybe it's like super important. But what if I try to put all of that on there? Well, number one, they're going to try really hard to please me.
Sure.
Completely, totally botch it. And if I just left them alone and gave them a moment to show me what they're thinking, that's called respecting your actor. They have a job. They're professionals. They know what the heck they're doing. Now, if it doesn't work for what you're trying to do, then I'll start directing and telling them what he needs. But half of what a good director does is let go and trust the people that you're working with. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have my fingers in every pot, because I do.
Sure.
You know, I am very aware of what's going on and I'm paying attention to what everybody's doing. But in another example, if my director of photography comes to me and says, well, I have an idea for this shot. If I like it better, I take it.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. If I still prefer mine and we have the time, I'll say, look, let's get that shot. Let's see what it's looking like. But I want this one, get mine first, and then let's get that one and see how it goes. You as a director, you're going to be at your best if you let the people around you shine as well. Make you look all the better, you know?
Right. I was saying, and they're going to work harder for you. And I didn't think it was possible, but there you went, making me want to see this movie even more, because this is one of those things where you know the difference between an actor's director and a director that is, you know, iron fisted.
Right.
And being an actor's director, when you're giving them that leeway and giving them that freedom, they're going to want to work double hard for you because you're letting them shine. You're letting them spread their own wings, so to speak. And they're going to work harder for you because you're giving them the freedom to do so.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And it's called respect. And, you know, I've seen directors do it both ways. And, you know, you don't have to be an asshole.
Right.
You know,
because
I mean, I'm not going to say that sometimes you don't have to kind of come down and say, no. And I will, if I'm not happy with the performance, I will stop. And I was like, no. You know, and we'll be shooting. But, you know, on an indie film, you don't have time to just keep reshooting and reshooting and reshooting. Right. So I try very hard to get people who are really up for the task.
Well, and like you said, especially when they are playing themselves, that's something that it should be natural, you know, and obviously they don't want to put their, you know, completely themselves out there, that vulnerability, I guess. But you do have that, I almost want to say like you have that responsibility to really put in a genuine performance, because this isn't like with, you know, with you, this isn't you putting another character out there. This is you that you're representing. Your name is on this as a director, as a co-writer, co-director, but also as, co-producer, but also as you as an actress. It's you that's there, not another character. It's you. So before we get off here, there's something that I always do on these podcasts. When we talked about your first horror movie, I still want to do this with you. How much do you think like Dark Shadows and Universal Monsters, how much do you think those influenced the direction that you went in your horror life?
That's a good question. I don't know. I guess I can say that I've always been fascinated with the whole character, the creature in Frankenstein. I definitely have a film I would like to do on that. It's in the back of my mind, something that I want to get written one day. I love that creature because he's so beautiful.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong or evil or bad about him, but his first introduction to humans is being attacked And he doesn't know what's going on. He's just lashing out.
He's a big baby.
Yeah, he absolutely is a baby. And he just happens to be a very big, dangerous baby, but that's,
Right.
you have to be extra careful to try and help.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that. I love the stories that evolve around where you get to know enough about the supposed bad guy or creature.
Yeah.
You get to feel that pull. I think if we go into my personal beliefs about humans, I do believe that every single human being on this planet on a soul level is made up of love and light and kindness. But get into the body, there's a lot of distortion and confusion and things that can happen and end up turning these beautiful creatures into doing something that's not quite so beautiful.
Right.
And so I like those that show those stories, so we can have compassion for those who are harming. It's easy to have compassion for those they're harming, but it's a little harder to have compassion for those who harm. And believe me, that has not been exactly my forte, but it is something that I believe wholeheartedly that we need, because if we're going to heal as a human race, we have to heal with all of us. We don't get to, we're all one, and so you can't cut this part out.
No picking and choosing.
Right. And no, that does not mean, this is by no stretch of the imagination that I'm saying that certain people don't need to go to jail or anything like that, because we need to protect people, but you can still do what's necessary to protect them and still have compassion for what they might have gone through that may have taken them down the path. A lot of these people, there really isn't, they're physically, something's physically is wrong with them because they're missing the part of their frontal cortex. That is not evil, my friend. That is somebody who is mentally disabled.
Yeah.
And so, and I mean, then there's other people with other issues. If you've come up in an extremely bad situation, your chemistry, your body chemistry may be your own enemy, because you felt fear for so long that the wrong hormones are dominating, and consequently you're responding in a way that maybe you wouldn't have if you had been raised in an environment that didn't have that. Now, granted, not every person that has been harmed goes out and harms, because then we'd really be in a lot of trouble in this. Most people come away and don't do it, but you then become damaged some way. So in that way, I know this is kind of taking it in a direction maybe didn't expect, but I think in that way it did. And also, if you think about the vampires, also kind of like with Dark Shadows, I kind of sympathized with them, and I'm like, well, they're not really that different. I remember thinking this as a child from us.
Mm-hmm.
Kill to eat, and they're killing to eat, and a tiger kills to eat. So for me, that wasn't that different. Now, not that I wanted the vampire to get me or anybody I love or anybody else. I didn't want him to get them at all, but I could have some empathy for them. I could still stop them and say, no, you can't do this, but I can have empathy for them.
And like you said, there's a difference between having consequence for your action and believing there's no consequence and you can do whatever you want.
Right.
But having that empathy for where they came from is a totally different thing. I completely agree with what you're saying.
Right.
Now, before we sign off, is there anything else you'd like to share about 13 Fanboy that we haven't touched on yet?
I can't think of anything right now other than that I'm really super excited about this. This is something that I did very specifically for the fans. They'd been asking me for a very long time to do something with members of the from the Friday the 13th series in particular is what I was asked for. And most of the ideas all revolved around something that would have been a Friday the 13th film, but I wasn't wanting to do a fan film, and I wasn't going to, right now, there's no way you can even get rights to it. So I wasn't looking to do a 13th film. I wanted to take this in a more realistic approach and tackle it from the direction I did. I'm really excited about it. I'm super excited to see the fans and see how they respond to it. I mean, so far with the trailer and stuff, 98% have been nothing but positive. And so I'm super thrilled to see where we go with this.
The only negatives you got were from Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers. Those are the only two that gave you any flack. Fuck Jason. So one last thing before we go, I do want to thank you again from the bottom of my heart for coming on. This has been so fun and so amazing to have you here. With 13 Fanboy, like I said, guys, you're watching this on October 15th. This is 7 days away. And this is something that I'm so super excited about, something that I have to wait a little longer than that, which is kind of upsetting me now. But with this 13 Fanboy, I can't really tell me you can't answer if you can't answer. That's completely fine. I respect it. Is there any type of chance of us ever getting a sequel type to this? Or is this something that is a one and done?
Nope. I definitely want to do a sequel. So
okay,
if we get the response we need to make that happen, absolutely.
Well, that falls on us, guys. We need to get out there. We need to watch this. We need to let them know what we think, because I'm very excited to see this. I've been very excited to see this for a long time. This has upped me from excitement to here to excitement to here. I didn't go up much because it can't go up too much farther, but the excitement is real because Jason Voorhees, for those of you that don't know, I showed Deborah this before we started. The first piece of Sledgehammer horror merchandise I ever made was this bad boy right here. That's how much Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th, and the actors that are a part of that universe mean to me. So to watch something that's these, a lot of these people that I grew up idolizing and still do, and some I'm lucky enough now to call friends, playing themselves in a movie that is so god-awful scary sounding, it warms my heart, which is funny. God-awful scary, warming my heart. But this is something that I'm super excited about because it's unique, it's real, it's heartfelt, and it's got amazing fucking actors in it, guys. So please, I'm begging you, check this film out. Not for me, not for Deborah, not for Lar or Kane or CJ or Vin, but for you, because you will be missing out if you don't see it. Deborah, don't go anywhere, please. I have a couple more questions for you. Okay. Everybody else, as always, click the links down here to follow them on social media and get ready for the film. Keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.